The Lord be with you. Reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John. Mary, help with the homily. Jesus said to Nicodemus, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in him may have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him might not perish, but might have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him will not be condemned. But whoever does not believe has already been condemned, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. And this is the verdict, that the light came into the world, but people preferred darkness to light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light, and has not come toward the light, so that his works might not be exposed. But whoever lives the truth comes to the light, so that his works may be clearly seen as done in God. The Gospel of the Lord. Okay, new point just added. You've got love. God does not come to judge the world. He loves the world. But if you don't accept Christ, you're already condemned. Sounds like a contradiction. Love everybody. God came and loves everybody. But now he's condemning. The point is, if you do not have Jesus Christ, you're condemned to the world. It's not that great. You're stuck with the world, yourself, ego, selfishness, pride, the capital sins. Jesus and a life, Stairway to Heaven. Okay, I'm not talking about Led Zeppelin. Jesus, Stairway to Heaven, or the world and its misery and the things it brings us. Okay, that was just extemporaneous. Here's the homily. Lifted up, the most quoted verse in the Bible, and Lattare Sunday. First of all, lifted up. In today's gospel, Jesus says, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Okay, you need to know the context. When the Jews came out of Egypt, they were on their way, they kept whining and moaning and complaining. The Lord sent serpents to bite them with poison, and they were dying. Moses, stop this. Please stop this. So an angel came and told Moses, I want you to do this. Fashion a serpent on a pole, a bronze serpent on a pole, and stick the pole up. If they look at the serpent and they believe, I have power, God, they will be cured of their poison. And it worked. It's a foreshadowing of Jesus. But let's go further back. The first serpent showed up in the garden. And they were at another tree. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said, don't eat. So they pulled off the apple off the tree. They ate the apple. And they won. They didn't win. The consequence was death. Now Jesus is going to eradicate that. He's going to overcome it. He's going to release us from the bondage of death and the fear of death. So Jesus gets lifted up on another tree. And the fruit of that tree, which is everlasting life, comes to us through what? The Holy Eucharist. It's not an apple. And keep in mind, folks, the bread used at this Mass that's consecrated is the same exact recipe, pure wheat flour, that the Jews used 3,000 years ago. The Easter Vigil is celebrated the exact same month the Jews would have celebrated the Passover if it was this year. Father, what are you talking about? The Passover, like the Easter Vigil, is set, the date is set by the first full moon of the spring equinox. Would have been the same. Okay. Secondly, we all have your favorite gospel verses. The most quoted verse in the gospel is John 3:14, 3:16, 3 starts at 3:14, 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only Son. For those of us old enough to remember, when anybody tried a field goal at a football game, somebody would roll out the banner. No, it doesn't matter where you were. John 3:16. In the hopes that someone said, what does that mean? And they go home and look it up. What the verse means is, God doesn't just love Catholics or Christians. He loves everybody. He does. And if you accept his love, you have peace with God. We have peace with one another. And we cannot see the world always as hostile. There's a lot of hostility out these doors. But I don't see the world by itself as hostile. I can see the world as a place for me to serve others, a place for me to do better. And in an economic and a healthy sense regarding your providing for your family, a place to have aspirations and to achieve some amount of success, to have goals. And this is of immense importance. We cannot dwell sufficiently about how much love God has for us. Now, today's La Tire Sunday. I could have wore the rose color. I get too much criticism, so I stuck with the purple, okay? The church gives us this time during Lent. If you're living Lent, if you're doing some fasting, if you're disciplining your body, if you're giving alms, if you're praying more, you should pray all the time more. Of course, there's a bugle blown at the beginning of the season. Heighten these spiritual exercises. They will lead you to a deeper faith. It will help grow your faith. So I want to talk about the joy of God, and I want to talk about the contrast to the joy of God. So this morning at 6:38, out my window looking east, I saw the moon. The moon. And it's amazing how fast the earth moves. Because by the time, it took about 15 minutes. I saw the moon, and then it disappeared behind a window pane. It's amazing. But I knew God was there. God was in my room. The vestiges of God are in creation. Then I went downstairs to the chapel. About an hour later in the chapel, the sun came up. Through probably the jewel, shot all the way from the jewel on 14, hit my room. I didn't hit my room, hit the chapel downstairs at the house chapel. I knew God was always, obviously, in the chapel. He was also, his vestiges or footprints were in the sun. I went to the swimming pool at the health club. Had the pool to myself. I knew God was there. Because I had my own lane, and I had my own pool. And it was very nice. I went to the sauna. God was in the sauna. He was. And I was with the head of the busing. You'd love to know who that guy is, because you probably have a complaint with him. The guy who runs the bus system, a wonderful Catholic man. And we were talking, having a nice time. God was there. You don't believe where I went next? I went to Harvest Bible Church. Parked my car and went in. I want to see what's going on. I didn't wear my collar. I came undercover. And they wanted me to sit. I told them no. I didn't lie. I'm not lying. I just said I'm a seeker. I think that's true. That's code word for someone trying to, see. So they wanted me to sit. Much like the Catholics, they had a collection. I'm happy to tell you. But it was good. It was good. I know God was there. God was there. Clearly God was there. They were doing this. And this is all guitars. You guys are up here. I'm pushed out at Harvest Bible. It's the guitar people. And go see if you want to investigate. That's fine. I know they're preaching God's holy word. We have disagreements. Of course we do. But Jesus Christ is still the center of their worship. And a lot of guitar music. And the guy giving the speech, they had the music in it. We should try this once. You guys can play some piano music in the background when I talk. You add some it's kind of cool. I'm like, this is cool. I was grooving. So anyway, they started going pretty heavy, and a couple people in the back pews, which I don't think it's not prohibited, but some people in the back row started kneeling. I wanted to touch them on the shoulder and say, "Come with me. I think you belong over here." We actually make you kneel in our church. Anyway, God was there. But then I came to say the 10:30 Mass at the family Mass. And of all the things I just told you, where God exists and God is most present in the Holy Eucharist. That's why I'm Catholic. He's not in one or the other. He's in all of them. But he's most present par excellence in the gift of the Blessed Sacrament, the new everlasting covenant, the fruit of redemption. Apple, eternal death, punishment, and death, and suffering. The fruit of this tree, the Holy Eucharist, leads to the fullness of life here and now, and of course, the promise of life everlasting. So I want to celebrate a lot, but I got to get serious for a second. This came to my attention. It's on the front page of the newspaper about suicide. There were 5 suicides in this town in the last 6 months. And I'm here to tell you, I say this as a semi-pro. I cannot give you all I don't know everything. Clearly, I don't know everything. And I'm not the guru on this issue by any means. And there are a lot of other issues that we cannot actually contain or make sense of. But here's what I do know. If you're a teenager and you're in church, you're awesome, first of all. You're awesome. And stick with it. It's got huge benefits. Besides pleasing God and those around you, it's going to make you a better person. It just will. It will. If you stay in school longer, I'm all for the trades. If you stay in school longer, you generally work less hard and make more money. If you keep your faith going, doesn't matter what you do with your life. It all finds its place. And you get a deep peace. And every once in a while, young people, of all the feelings you seek with restlessness and anxiety, every once in a while, when I'm at church, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. No matter how many bad choices I made in the past, or things that might not have gone my way, every once in a while I'm here, I think, I made the right choice. I'm here. God got me here. It was all part of some larger plan. And I want you to think that way. But here's what I do know. If you're a teenager, and not just teenagers, we're going to talk about teenagers because this is the predominant group on which this problem is happening in our own town. If you don't have an active faith and strong morals and good parental examples, if you're obsessed with Facebook, if you're a constant texter, if you play violent video games like Call of Duty, where you can shoot 100 people. I didn't even know this. Someone told me this information. You're a first-person shooter. And they make it so graphic, Mom and Dad. You gotta find out about this. And if you get killed, you push a button, you come back to life. If you're watching The Walking Dead, where zombies have good lives and fall in love, who presides over that marriage? Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice probably got a marriage license. But I don't want to make it funny. Where zombies have good lives, there's no penalty for death. No sense of the finality of it. In many cases, it's seen as glamorous. If you live part-time in a virtual reality, there's consequences. There's an immunity from the horror of violence. I told you this. I'm embarrassed, but I'm going to tell you. One of my Starbucks guys, about a year ago, when ISIS were cutting people's heads off, he showed me his iPhone, whatever. I didn't want to look. I just turned and saw it. It's a bunch of heads on poles. It happened. It's historical. They photographed it. Don't go look for it. But I got to be honest. I've seen in my own life tons of horror scenes. I was shocked. I wasn't sorry. I'm sorry. I did that to the baby. I was shocked. I was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I'm serious. There's even a fascination with this stuff. The kids, not all kids, but if you're a texter, a full-time texter, I'm going to argue, in general, you have coarser emotions, less respect. Because you're not with human people. You're not talking to people. There's a veil of anonymity. You can say anything you want on texting. You can't. How many people say, I don't know about you. I'm a little bigger. No one says it to my face. I wish they would. I like a good argument or a good conversation. They don't even leave messages for me. And I don't text. So people will say something online they won't say to someone's face. Because of this, there's a reduced empathy, decreased sense of belonging, increased feelings of isolation. And then this can fuel, which goes before all this behavior, the loner mentality. You don't understand me. I'm kind of on my own. I'm an outsider. And what that does is it decreases coping mechanisms, strategies to solve problems. Look, I don't know all the incidents of these 5 young adults, but I do know this much. This too shall pass. That the Lord is my strength, that I can walk in the valley of darkness and fear no evil. But if you follow this, what I said to you, and if someone is suffering from a mental or an emotional depression or some other chemical or personality disorder, the risks multiply. I went to a funeral for a man 4 weeks ago who was 53, who took his own life in Rockford. It was radical depression. He had money, he had a lovely wife, he had everything, and another job. They cried there too, they did. Because it was sad. And the only explanation was it was radical depression. So I can't solve all these things. But parents, kids, if you're mature enough, you're not going to like this homily. Watch your technology. Put boundaries on it. There's got to be more order to our kids' technology. Some parents said to me, if you let a kid take a computer, that computer or the thing, to his room at night, shame on you. Now I trust our kids. But still, is it that much? Seriously? Yesterday, at the Starbucks, there were 3 girls, 13 or 14, that's my prediction. Too much makeup on their faces too. And they're texting. So they're walking out, I says, excuse me, the girl jumped. Somebody tried to talk to me. So then I was with a couple. I was with Lisa and Jim Lundgren, and they were giving me all this information. They were raising teenagers. They know all about this. So they go outside, and the girls make another run. By that, I mean they're walking, but they make another pass by me. And there's a screen, there's glass. I felt like they were looking at me like I was an animal in a zoo. There's the man who wants to have a conversation with us. That's weird. So yesterday before I went swimming, I can't make this up, folks. Teenager from Central, I know he's from Central because I saw the logo on his shirt. And his dad says, put the thing away! To get the same locker. And the kid's like, I'll be done in a second. He stood his father down. I could have never done that to my father. That was very disrespectful. I left the rib house a little while ago. He says, every Friday night, just come for any Friday night, come to the restaurants. There are families sitting together. Half the kids are on their technology. Please, guys, listen, if you're a brain surgeon, I got it. If you're a high-frequency trader, I understand it, as long as the stock market's open. But this information, we got to disconnect ourselves from a false reality. And this is of huge importance to us. Why? Because the present moment has a sufficient amount of joys, struggles, surprises to occupy our attention. Remember, guys, older people? That's who we're called now. I used to like hanging around my dad and listening to his stories and his friends' stories. And my dad say, hey, come on, go out with us. Leave your stuff behind. We'd race out the door. We look forward to the invitation. If my dad took me to work, I love that stuff. So you heard what I have to say. This is serious. It's not going away. I'm going to end with, and I'm not going to end with something sorrowful, but I have a best friend. I don't think he thinks he's my best friend, but I call him my best friend. His name is Father Brian Geary. He's a lawyer and a priest. And right after Columbine happened, the day of Columbine, Father Brian said to me, it just started. I hope I'm wrong. I severely, seriously hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, as technology and virtual reality play much more of a serious role in our everyday present moment lives, I see a lot more bad ends coming out here. And besides, before wireless, the cord had to come into your Apple computer. The cord could metaphorically be the snake. And the apple's already been bit out of. Let's seek the remedy. It's this Mass. It's this Holy Communion. And as Christ was lifted up, may you in Holy Communion be lifted up and one day share life everlasting.